to be too long tonight, but I wanted to just, there's something that has just been resting in my spirit lately. And I think this is more prophetic than anything. For some reason, I have gotten stuck on those 4 lepers in 2 Kings. 2 Kings, the 7th chapter. I won't read it. You go and read it for yourself, but I'll give you the background. These 4 lepers are outside of the city walls, and they're starving, and they're sick, obviously, because they're lepers. They're starving, but their people inside of the walls are starving as well. There's no provision inside of the walls. There's no provision outside of the walls where they were. And they were outside of the walls because they were lepers and they were considered unclean. And so they make this decision. Read it when you get a chance. They make this decision that there's an enemy's camp that's not far away. And they make the decision to go and throw themselves on the mercy of the enemy. And they said, if they accept us as slaves or as prisoners, we'll get something to eat. If we die, we're going to die anyway. So we might as well, why sit here until we die? And so they make a choice and they make a decision to go. And they go, and what they discover is that when they get to the enemy's camp, God had already made the enemy hear the sound of a great army. And the enemy had already abandoned the camp. And the main thing that sticks with me out of that whole passage is that if they had never made a choice to get up and to do something, they would have never discovered that God had already moved supernaturally. I want you to hear what I just said. If they had not made a choice to do something, they would have never discovered that God had already moved supernaturally. Could it be that God has already done his part? I want you to just think about that. In your life, in my life, in our lives, could it be that God has really already done his part? And maybe when we say we're waiting on God, is God really waiting on us? God had done his part. If they had not made the choice to go, they would have never discovered that God had done his part. Okay, that just stays with me, man. But there's some things that I thought about. And I've been talking about this, just, I haven't been able to get off of it. Number one, they're standing there and they're lepers. Their bodies are full of sores. They are rejected by their own people. They could have allowed the spirit of hopelessness to come over them. Because of their situation, they could have allowed a spirit of hopelessness to come over them. And if they had become hopeless, they would have missed their season. They definitely would not have gone and taken a risk if they were hopeless. And I wonder how many of you that are on here tonight that are in situations, I want you to hear what I'm saying, in situations that look and feel hopeless. And because of your situation, you've given up on life. Not understanding that God is bigger than your situation, and all of your situations, when you really trust God, they work together for your good anyway. That's why we can't be driven by our feelings in moments, because moments shift and change. They could have allowed hopelessness to cancel their season. And then the second thing I thought about, I've been teaching this, man. I just haven't been able to get off of it. Because how many times have I been, in a hopeless state? Okay, let me give you the prime example. After Katrina destroyed New Orleans. That's my daughter, Carla. I love you, baby. After Katrina destroyed New Orleans, I was functioning You know, we came to Houston to establish the church here. I was going back and forth to New Orleans to help rebuild ministry there. But for about 5 or 6 years, 5 years at least, I was hopeless. And because I was hopeless, it was like I could not connect. I could not get momentum. It was like I couldn't get the wheels to hit the ground. There was no traction because I was functioning out of a spirit of hopelessness. And I didn't realize it, but I was delaying my season. I was at least smart enough to keep functioning and to keep pushing and to keep pressing and not just give up on life entirely. But I was in a spirit of hopelessness. Yeah, and most of us, if we really analyze our situations, our lives are not as bad as we think they are. And situations are not as hopeless as we think they are. Because watch this. While they thought they were going to surrender themselves as prisoners, they were really going to inherit the whole camp and the wealth of the camp. So while it looked one way in the natural from their perspective, from God's perspective, it was a party. They thought they were going to prison when they were really going to a party. And could you right now, even though you feel hopeless and even though it looks hopeless, could you really be in the grips of the greatest season of your life? But you can't even embrace it because you're functioning out of what you see and you're allowing what you see to dictate what you feel. And your feelings are dictating your emotions. And so even though you're in the greatest season of your life, you're depressed. Wow. Second thing that they could have allowed bitterness to cancel their season. You know, you think about why me? You know, why me? Why am I out here with leprosy, and why have my people rejected me? I know I'm contagious. And I know that this stuff I got could kill people, but why have they rejected me? You know, that's how we feel, you know. And so we get bitter. We get angry with people because people do what people do. You know, we get bitter because life happens. I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care what your position is, what your title is, what color shirt you wear, and how many crosses you got and whatever. Life happens to all of us, man. Life happens to all of us. And you can sit around there and you can allow bitterness. You know, okay, let me go back to myself again. After Katrina hit, you know, when Katrina hit New Orleans, I had been building my church for 18 years. I had just gotten it to where I had my staff in place. Everybody knew the way I wanted things done. Staff in place. I see this thing is acting crazy. I had all of my volunteer staff in place. And then Katrina hits and all that's gone. And then on top of that, on top of losing all of my key people, I'm struggling financially. But I never allowed bitterness to take over my life. I was never in a position where I was like, why me? You know, why me? It always came back to me, why not you? You know, we walk by faith, not by sight. If you're not going to have some days where it's, you know, challenging, why do you need faith? And God never promised us that every day is going to be, you know, every day for me is not, you know, peaches and cream, man. I know y'all may think it is, but every day for me is not peaches and cream. Like right now, I got swim coming up. I got some people that, you know, supposed to have done some things by now. They haven't done it. And they got my money. So, you know. But I've learned to chill. And I've learned not to allow anything that happens in life to make me bitter, because bitterness will disconnect me from my inheritance. See, you can't be bitter and anointed at the same time. Did y'all hear what I just said right there? Just chill. You know, learn to release people. Let people be human. I don't hold stuff against people. I allow people to be human. People do all kinds of stuff to me, man. They lie on me. They take my money. They turn their back on me, and it never shakes me. I just keep it moving. I allow people to be human, and I forgive, and I keep it moving, because while you sitting there dealing with that, I'm climbing higher. I'm not going to allow bitterness to disconnect me from my season. And I like it because these boys didn't let bitterness disconnect them. And it's clear that they didn't, because when they went to the land and discovered that it was empty and that all the wealth was there, they said, let's go back and let's get our kindred. Let's get our homeland people. So they weren't holding anything against anybody. And I see this thing is not acting right. Thirdly, they could have allowed fear to stop them. Fear could have canceled their season. They could have been afraid. Watch this. Standing at the gate, starving, can't go inside because your people starving. And you know these people over here got food, and they could have been scared to go and attempt to get it. Scared to go to the next level. Here you go. What is the biggest reason we never maximize our potential? And the devil is going to let this thing go. Y'all got to hear this here. We are afraid to go to the next level. You know why we're afraid to go to the next level? It's unknown. We'd rather sit in a miserable state of mediocrity that is familiar than to potentially go to the zenith of life, because it is unfamiliar and we are afraid. We have not mastered that terrain. And what's our biggest fear? Our biggest fear, boy, this thing is getting on my nerves. Our biggest fear is that if I try, I might not make it. If you don't make it, guess where you will end up at? Right where you are now. You have nothing to lose. I wish this thing were acting better, but I hate it when it does this. I got to cut it loose because it's gotten on my nerves now. But let me tell you something. Do not cancel your season. Do not cancel your season. Your season is in your care. No man can cancel your season. The devil can't even cancel your season. The only one that can cancel your season is you. Don't do it. I love y'all. I wish I had a better connection. But this comes from my heart, man. This comes from my heart, directly from my heart. Because let me tell you something. Y'all just listen to me. Y'all pray that this thing holds on for a few minutes while I share this with you. I'm just coming out of the darkest season of my life. The darkest season of my life. This last decade of my life has literally been the kind of decade that could have taken me out of here. I could very well be dead now. On the backside of Katrina, the stress of having to try to pull everything back together again. You know, the financial pressure of trying to regroup and building in 2 different states now and having the tremendous expense of travel with, doing all of this with less than half of the resources that I was accustomed to dealing with. Then my father passing, and then just the weight of everything. And then on top of that, people that I thought would have been my rock, would have been there, just kind of abandoned, and I don't know. This phone. But God kept me through it all. But God kept me through it all. And I never lost my confidence in him. And now I'm coming into the season that I always dreamed of. The one he showed me many years ago is now coming to pass. I love y'all. Have a great night. Your season. This phone is on my nerves.